Thanks for your company. Government has called on the people of Alavanyo and Nkonya to consider how education is gradually grinding to a halt in the area and the effect of that on their children, and allow peace to prevail. 2 people have been killed in last week's renewed gun battle in the 2 towns, whilst many others have been injured. Scores of people have died over the last 90 years in this lingering dispute over a parcel of land. Interior Minister Ambrose Derry says government will go all out and ensure the rule of law prevails in the 2 towns. He is, however, appealing to the feuding factions to consider the cost of the conflict in terms of education and development and ensure peace is restored. From that, at least 1 woman has died at the Greater Accra Regional Hospital, Ridge, this year as a result of lack of blood. The new case adds to the over 100 women who died last year in the region due to the same problem. About 50,000 pints of blood is needed to prevent maternal mortality in Accra. The startling revelation came from the Regional Health Directorate. The Directorate, as a result, is launching a massive campaign to stop the trend. According to the consultant obstetrician and gynecologist at the Greater Accra Regional Hospital, Dr. Emmanuel Srophenyo, hemorrhage is the leading cause of maternal deaths in the country. He spoke earlier on News Desk with Beatrice Edu.
From the beginning of this year, the situation has not been the best. And, you know, across the region, the statistics that we gave you about 100 women losing their lives last year, even this year, people continue to lose their lives. And there are times that we may be able to save the life of the woman. If maybe a woman needs about 5 pints of blood, you may end up getting only about 1 or 2 pints of blood for her. In that case, she goes home in a very weak state because you've not been able to get her adequate amount of blood. Sometimes when you visit other countries, for example, you go to conferences, they will tell you that they've been able to save a life of a woman by giving her about 30 pints of blood, or maybe even about 40 pints of blood for 1 woman if the situation becomes acute and severe. But such amounts of blood, we cannot get it in Ghana here to save people's lives. You can imagine that you deliver, you are bleeding, and sometimes we have to ask the relatives, if our own blood bank, we don't have enough blood, we have to ask the relatives, try other blood banks. Sometimes we send them in the middle of the night, try 37 Military Hospital, try Kolebu Teaching Hospital. In the middle of the night, the husbands or the relatives have to be driving around town looking for other blood banks which may have blood, and sometimes they don't get it. And so it's a very trying moment, both for the husbands and also for the patients themselves. You could be seeing death staring at you directly. So,
for instance, what was the last experience that the Ridge Hospital encountered?
Well, the fact of the matter is that even this year, Ridge Hospital has also lost a woman as a result of inadequate amount of blood within the system. Unavailability of blood as a product still continue to cause the lives of our mothers.
I know you're launching this big campaign to get more people to donate blood. Tell us about it.
So what we want to do is that first of all, you know, in the past, it has been that usually the campaigns are launched by the National Blood Transfusion Service. They are responsible for the entire nation. So whatever blood they get, they share it with the other 10 regions. So the amount of blood that comes to the Greater Accra is not enough. You know, the population of Accra has increased tremendously over the years. So what we want to do, so this effort is an effort to support the National Blood Transfusion Service to make sure that other hospitals like Ridge, Tama General Hospital to start with, and later on the plan is that other district hospitals should be able to have small blood banks so that they also within the district can organize their own small campaigns to get people within the district to come over and donate blood into their blood bank, so that even at the district level they can save lives. Normally such cases, if a woman is bleeding, the bleeding woman will not have to be transferred to either Ridge Hospital or Tama General Hospital or Kolebu Teaching Hospital. And sometimes in the process, the woman may die on the way. So if we make sure all these district hospitals are also able to have small blood banks so that they are also able to save life at the district level, that will also help reduce the amount of women, the number of women that we are losing.
Away from the health sector, the National Association of Graduate Teachers, NAGRAT, is demanding a month's extension to enable it register its members on the SNIT biometric registration, as it insists there was no communication to a deadline. Thousands of graduate teachers are expected to lose their salaries this month as government refuses to reinstate defaulters of SSNIT's biometric registration. President of the National Association of Graduate Teachers, Christian Adaipoku, who spoke earlier on Joy News Desk, says the teachers can't be held responsible for the lack of communication on the exercise.
In the first place, SSNIT biometric registration is not supposed to clean controllers' payroll. SSNIT is a different entity altogether. By law, anybody that controller pays must be deducted SSNIT contribution. That's fair. But the point is that if a different entity is doing its work and you're going to use it to clean your payroll, then it is fair that you inform your employees that this entity is doing some work. I wish that everybody avails himself for that exercise, because at the end of it all, I'm going to use it to clean my payroll. Our point is information and sensitization. The process of biometric registration started over a year ago, but they have different ways of doing it. Sometimes they send text messages to people, go and register. Sometimes they move to certain schools, do it themselves, and so on. There have been many, many different strategies that SSNIT has used. We still believe that there are many people in the hinterlands who have not been reached by SSNIT. And so we're expecting that the names of all the people affected should have been published. Then education goes out, give a deadline that everybody must avail himself or herself by this deadline. And if people do not adhere to that deadline, then you can go ahead.
But are we not here? Are we not here because you failed, NAGROD failed to inform your members that this is what is happening? If my memory serves me right, the warning started coming last year. So between that time and now, what were you doing?
No. The warning that came last year was different from this one. Last year, controller's message was that some people didn't have their SSNIT numbers on their pay slip. It's different from going to do biometric registration. And so the message that came last year is different. This one, nobody has been informed. Actually, the union was taken aback when just a week ago we heard in the news that controller is going to take this step. And we think it is really wrong because the worker has worked over the month, and the fact that somebody might be illegally be on the payroll doesn't mean another person should be denied his or her salary. And that is what is going to create a whole lot of...
and so this thing about you enrolling on the biometric system, when did this information say, if you say what was given last year is not the same as this one?
SSNIT started the exercise about a year ago, but there was no indication that when we finish, anybody who does not enroll, we will send the information to controller to delete your name.
Did you assume that there was not going to be any deletion of names of those who were not in the system?
They are totally not related to our pay. And so there was nothing for anybody to just conjecture that this was going to happen. That's the first thing. Secondly, we think that if SSNIT had also given a deadline, that by this deadline, I'm not going to register any more people and I'm going to pass this on to controller, then we would have taken steps. But it has been an ongoing process. As I said, over a year ago they started, and every day as and when you feel convenient, because they didn't want people to be overcrowded at SSNIT offices. So it was a gradual process that anybody can go at any point in time and register. So people have taken it for granted. If you think that there was a need for urgency to finish this within a specific time, this was a matter of just giving out information to the press and then everybody be notified that by the end of, let's say, March, anybody who does not avail himself for biometric registration should count himself not being paid.
Must we always give a deadline when you knew that this process was ongoing?
If there's no deadline, then at my convenience, I can walk to the SSNIT office at any point in time and get registered.
But from the way you're talking, it seems that there was no communication at all. Meanwhile, the Accountant General, Mr. George Ban, when we spoke to him, he said that until the Finance Ministry reviewed the process, there was not going to be any change of mind. It presupposes that there was some level of communication with you, the Accountant General's Department and the Finance Ministry.
No, there was no communication. But Mr. Ba is saying that based on the fact that he has been given instruction by the Sector Ministry. And we have not written to Mr. Ba, we have written to the Minister of Finance. And so we expect that the Ministry of Finance will also instruct Controller and Accountant General to halt the exercise and make sure that everybody is paid, give us time to be able to sensitize our people, and then everybody who counts himself a teacher can get the chance to also enroll on the biometric.
So now you're asking for a month to do this. Within 4 weeks, how much can be done?
Oh, a lot can be done within 4 weeks. We are going to use the press, we are going to move to the schools and make sure that we clean up everything. And few or as many as who qualify to be teachers and who qualify to be paid, who have not availed themselves, we are sure we'll be able to reach all of them.
But
Work is currently underway to clean some parts of the compound of Coconut Grove Hotel that was gutted by fire on Saturday. Some men were seen on Monday morning busily packing out some of the charred items onto a truck. Maxwell Agbagba reports.
A raging inferno ravaged some structures here on the compound of the Coconut Grove Regency Hotel Limited on Saturday. It took firemen several hours to douse the flames. In fact, when you come here today, some men are busily packing the remnants of what happened on Saturday. Some buildings affected here include the Gold Coast Security, a Mansan television, and a gift shop and other structures. About 10 buildings were affected by the inferno. In fact, when you come here, security men will not allow the media to go inside to take footage of whatever happened. Security is very tight here. Now, what you can see going right now are debris or remnants of what happened during the fire incident. So that truck you see over there is packing the debris to another location.
Well, with me in the studio is Public Relations Officer of the Ghana National Service, DO1, Prince Billy Anaglate, to talk about this, because a lot of conversation has erupted as a result of this incident that occurred on Saturday. Thank you so much for joining me, sir. Let's talk about the struggle, because we've seen pictures and videos right from the time when you couldn't see the flames and all we could see was smoke. You could see a fire service man trying to douse the flames and extinguish the fire. How come your service struggled from that point till we saw, huge flames? Even then, there still was a lot of struggle.
Well, thank you. It is true that when we actually had the information from a taxi driver who drove to our station to inform us, that was about 5:21 in the afternoon. And then the first tender got there to assess the situation and call for additional appliances. We had 19 fire appliances on the ground at the time.
Fire appliances, what do you mean by
fire appliances? That vehicles that we use in firefighting.
Okay.
So 13 of them are fire tenders that are directly into firefighting.
Okay.
4 of them water tankers.
Okay.
And we have our turntable ladder, the one that we use from a height. And yes, so we marshal all that. Why? Because looking at the fuel load of the premises that was on fire, you realize that more than 70% of the materials used are light materials, which is of wood. In between, you will see cokes, that are of petroleum, base. And you realize the fire was spreading very fast from where it was first seen to the other aspect. So we quickly marshal all those level of fire appliances to ensure that we stop the fire from a point. We were able to position 5 of those firefighting engines at vantage point to be able to have effective firefighting and also to prevent other adjoining facilities also to getting into it. But as I stated, that the light material that they have used gives us a miscargo, which means that there were various other combustible materials within, and together with those that have been used for the construction, that give various ignition temperatures and different behaviors of fires, that we were having a lot of smoke that was coming because other offices were under key and lock. Okay. So firemen were not having access to get in when the fire was smoldering within those offices.
But Mr. Naglati, I guess you are trained to break into, such places where, they are locked up and there's a fire, I'm just thinking that it's part of the fire service training to be able to break into such places and douse flames.
Exactly. That is what we normally do. But because when we got there, those that were under key and lock, I was telling you about the material that they use in construction. There was no sign for you even to detect that probably there was smoldering effect within them. So if you don't have any sign of a fire in there, it is also against the law to break into those ones. But the difficulty we had was when their generator was still working. At the time that the fire was going on, generator was still working, which would give you an indication that current was still flowing through the wires. And electrical wires is one of those means of fire spread. So the electrical cable picked the fire from a source because on an upsurge on the current from the point of source of where they saw the fire, and quickly move the fire through all the other offices.
So why couldn't we just turn off the generator?
That was the first thing we should have done before the firemen got there. So when we got there, depending on where the generator was and where the fire was first seen at the part of the building, our concentration was on that. Little did we know that their generator was hidden somewhere and was on. We didn't know that it was there. It was only when we saw that, yes, there was a flash spread of fire rapidly to other areas that we traced it and saw that the generator was on. That was the biggest challenge that we had. If they were to turn off the generator, the situation would have been
all right, Mr. Nagbate, in all of this, on Saturday, I was here and I linked live with my colleague Derek Akosam on the ground. I realized that one of the struggles was that you had to emphasize again and again that your men did not come in there without water, because people were peddling that on social media, saying that, oh, can you imagine the fire service got here and they didn't have water in their fire tenders. And I even realized that at the point where the interior minister arrived at the scene, you had to go behind him trying to interject and say, we came with water. We've seen a lot of comments on social media, but before we go into that, the PR of the GN group, Mr. Kielsen, said that the fire is believed to have started from an air conditioning unit. Mr. Nagbate, I'm just wondering if someone may have picked up an extinguisher, if it was available, and tried to quench or extinguish the flame or the fire that was building up. We could have averted this. What is the fire service, doing about this in terms of training people how to use these extinguishers and other, firefighting equipment or tools or materials? Because I can imagine that we wouldn't be having this conversation if someone had just picked up an extinguisher to, deal with it.
Yeah, perfectly right. That is exactly the situation, that every big fire starts with something small. The fire we are talking of started with something small, and again, but if we come to the training of people to use fire extinguishers, it becomes very difficult for people to avail themselves for the training. Day in, day out, fire service is doing everything possible to take people through firefighting in terms of fire extinguishers and all that. Today, if we should move within these premises that we are training people, there are some that will not even come to listen to the education that we are doing. I'm talking in terms of experience. What normally is on the ground. There are some that will not come to even listen in the first place of what we are coming to educate them on. The other one is when it comes to the practical usage of the extinguisher, that we will set just a fire in a teapot for people to try their hands on. They are scared to use it in the first place. So if you can't use an extinguisher to extinguish fire in a teapot, how will you be able to use it when it is a real fire this way? But the problem is about people changing their attitude towards fire safety. Well, if you change your attitude, and you know that wherever you find yourself, there might be one day where you will meet the reality of seeing fire, where you will have the opportunity that you might be the only person to be able to prevent a disaster by using an extinguisher, and they are ready to avail themselves to ensure that they are there for us to train.
But your ally mandates you to train people in organizations, does it?
Of course.
Have you come out to, maybe suggest to companies that we want to train your people or organizations?
We continue doing that. It's frustrating doing that. Just even the early part of this year, the chief officer has made it, compulsory that we move to media houses specifically to assess the hazard within their premises, and also to train them into that. We have started. I sent a letter to these premises as well. We have rearranged and arranged. It has not even come through that we've not gotten here. We are moving to other areas as well. The ILI made it compulsory, but it is also for the authorities of the organizations to make people available based on the airline. We have written several letters to people to make them available that we are coming to train them. But if you look at the frustration that we get, people tell you that, oh, we have been here for so many years, there have never been fire. There wouldn't be any fire. These are the mentality, but forgetting that the longer you stay within the premises, where you are using all other electrical guardian and all that, you are getting close to when you should have fire. That is the time that people should wake up and understand and make themselves available and to appreciate the fire safety facilities, to also ensure that they meet the level of the safety measures that we spell out.
All right, NkonyaAlavanyo, please hold on a minute and let me get on to social media. These are just a few comments that we picked up on that event that occurred on Saturday. Now, this one says, I, for one, have never trusted the Ghana National Fire Service when it comes to doing what they are really supposed to do. And this person says he remembers years ago how their fire tenders will be speeding through a Kosombo like they were going to fight some fire somewhere, only for them to end up at Atimpoku to go and buy Abolo and 1 month thousand. Okay, so we have 2 more comments on this, and then I'll be picking your reaction to this particular issue. This one says, Coconut Grove Hotel, Accra is on fire. Now, fire service tenders have run out of water. Fire spreading uncontrollably. So sad. I'll pick your reaction, especially with the issue of water, because I realized you mentioned that there was a strategy that you were employing that a lot of people didn't understand. And there's a last comment there that talks about the fact that, well, this person thinks the Ghana National Fire Service is one of the weakest state institutions in the country, and he adds, trust me, with an exclamation mark. Dear NkonyaAlavanyo, what would be your reaction to all these comments? And this is just a sample, because there were a lot of these on social media.
Well, of course, yes. I'll pick it from the last one, then we can move on there. Yes, he said it's the weakest, organization or whatever.
State institution.
Yes, that he's talking. Well, he's talking from a layman point of view. He's talking from where he or she is sitting. I do not blame him, because he has not made himself or herself available to understand the technical aspect of the job that we do. When there is fire, firefighting is one of the most difficult tasks on earth. When there is fire, people think that the moment the fire service get there, the fire should go off momentarily. They think that it is a candle fire that we should get there and blow, wind to it, that it goes off. But firefighting is no longer the massive application of water. If we are not careful, the water damage will even be more than the distraction from the fire itself. So we get to the scene and try to determine what we should do. So whoever said that, I will pray that he should look for me. Come, let me just take him through within.
But are you underutilized, the Ghana Fire Service?
Are we?
Under-resourced?
Oh, of course. If you talk of being resourced, yes, I should say yes. Why am I saying yes? Not that we have not been resourced, but then the fire that we fought on Saturday and any other fires in the market and all that, those fires are best fought with a helicopter. Okay. So we need to fight those fires from a height. Okay. A situation where our turntable ladder can assist us in fighting fire from a height, and to effect rescue from a height can take us only to the 6th floor. What of the rest of the floors above that? So this fire could have also been best fought with a helicopter, but we do not have it. But that is not to say that that might have caused the situation that we are talking of now. The public is only looking at the distraction caused to that stretch of it, forgetting that the hotel facility that was close to the fire had been protected.
Okay, so what your strategy was to protect the adjoining facilities so that you wouldn't have the fire spread, for example, to the immigration service and then to the hotel itself. But let's talk about your strategy in bringing in water, because that's where a lot of people got confused, saying that your tenders didn't have water. Just a quick,
yes, what we did was to position 5 tenders permanently on the ground to continue having effective firefighting on the facility that was on fire. And then they should also ensure that there was no spread of fire to other adjoining facility. But the rest of the appliances should go and bring water, because there was no way we could rely on any hydrant, ready hydrant there for uninterrupted water supply. So what we were doing is to allow the rest to pick water and come and drop it and move out. But the public, staying outside, looking at vehicles moving in and moving out.
They couldn't understand.
Yeah, they only concluded that we got in empty tender and look at the fire and then move on. Are we not having a single wise person in fire service to say that it is wrong for us not to fill the tanker, let alone when you are called before you get in there, look at the fire and go. It is totally wrong. It's false. It's not true.
And Mr. Nagla, so when we visited the premises, we saw some pockets of smoke. Has the fire really been doused? Is it
of course. Yes, those pockets of fires once a while, because it is an open place. There is heat within. The heat within the debris. When the wind blows once a while and it's gotten a sufficient volume of wind, it will come off. That is why we were on the ground till the following morning. The whole of yesterday we were there. But those pockets of fires are weak. They wouldn't do anything. They wouldn't do anything.
Finally, Dio1 Naglate, before you leave, when should we expect a report? We know that the Interior Minister says that he is expecting his report by close of day today. But usually when fire incidents occurred, we've said it time and time again, the media never get to report the findings of the Ghana National Fire Service. When are we expecting a report on this particular incident?
When the fire started and I got there 6 something in the evening, that was Saturday. I left the following Sunday dawn around 3 a.m. I got back after 7 a.m. Sunday, and I left there 4 p.m. yesterday. And I from there to my office, all trying to investigate with the team. So this dawn 2 a.m. was when we concluded on the report, the interim report, and I'll be submitted to the chief officer. As we are talking, he left this morning to the Interior Ministry to submit it to the Interior Minister. Okay. So we have concluded on the interim report.
Thank you very much. Dio1 Prince Billy Naglate is the Public Relations Officer of the Ghana Fire Service. And as you can see, I'm sure his cap is hiding his eyes, but you can really see that he's really tired. Thank you so much for the effort. And like you mentioned, you may just want to avail yourself to learn how to use an extinguisher or any other firefighting tool or resource so that we can prevent fires in this country. Away from that, Minister of Lands and Natural Resources, John Peter Amewu, says his outfit will introduce multilateral mining integrated program in the mining sector. The minister said this in an interview with Joy News Monday morning when he visited Golden Star Mining Company in the Prestia-Huni Valley in the Western region, where the train for the fight against Galamsey has taken the task force to. The team paid a courtesy call on the divisional chief of Prestia-Himan Traditional Area, Nana Intibua IV, who declared support for the fight and called on other stakeholders like the Agriculture and Environment Ministries as well as the EPA to rally behind the initiative to end the menace.
If they do at their own risk. A lot of the scrap industry needs scraps, and so if they want to take excavators to their mining site, that is their own business. I have no problem.
After 5 years.
But any excavator that will work henceforth with any mining site will need to be authorized. That is the direction.
Militant approach?
It's not a militant. Authorizations of mining excavators is never militant. It's a regulatory, framework to allow mining to be done in a more environmental friendly
After
manner.
5 years MMIP plan, then what next?
Well, if the MMIC succeed within 5 years, then it's an ongoing process. Now the 5 year, because we need some capital to get involved in it, and that is why it's, when it gets established, well established, we don't have any problem.
How much capital do we need in the MMIP?
Well, it's quite extensive now. We're looking at a margin of no less than about $10 million, not to start, but when it gets to the peak. It's a way forward. Yeah. Thank you.
So yesterday, at a briefing, you mentioned that today you're going to release a statement asking 9 district officers to proceed on leave immediately. Where are we with that today?
Well, that statement is going to come, and it's not a statement as such, it's a letter to be sent to those 9 officers. They're actually on interdiction. If they proceed on leave, of course, they still will be getting their salaries. This one is they are on interdiction. And maybe during the process of interdiction, they'll be paid 50% of their salary, and we constituted a team to investigate.
But over the weekend, the Lands and Natural Resources Minister John Peter Amewu was on a tour of some illegal mining sites in the Western region. During that tour, the minister directed that 9 district mining officers proceed on leave with immediate effect. The minister, who was infuriated by what he saw at the mining sites when he visited the place, said there are young graduates out there who are ready to work.
John Peter Mewu also reviewed and extended the ultimatum on Galamsey by 30 more days. Miners are expected to remove all excavators from the various mining sites within this period. In an interview with Joy News' Latif Idrisu, the minister said his outfit would consider putting boots in areas identified as safe haven for their activities to end Galamsey. Going forward, the minister said government will streamline mining operations across the country to make for easy and proper monitoring.
I don't know what to describe this, honestly. But again, you see, it is a fact that they've left a lot of excavators, along the side as we pass by. I know the intention is for most of them to return. But those that are left in the various communities, we are giving them another ultimatum of 30 days to move those excavators out of those communities.
They are only waiting for you and your team to move out of the community and they will be back.
They will be back. I mean, it's clear, but they move the excavators from their pitch, various digging areas, and they park them quite close to the communities. We're giving them another 30 days to move those excavators out of those villages. It is clear all the villages that we have passed through, there are a lot of excavators still parked there. These communities have not benefited. In fact, we are not anti-mining as a government, okay? Even Ghana as a country had not benefited so much from its mining activities, let alone these communities that we have passed through, okay? And so I think it's proper we give them a second warning to move those excavators out of the communities.
You are being flexible with the directive you issued.
Well, what are they packed? What are they packed there doing? I mean, I'm clear in my mind that they want to return back. Yeah. There's calm in the system, but I am extremely clear in my mind that they will want to return back to the various, construction areas. And in an attempt to do that, well, the consequences, you know. So
you are saying that they should move them out of the...
They should move them out of the...
Take them to...
Where do they bring them from? Look, there are 90% of excavators are in these villages. Excavators, what are they doing in these villages?
Mr. Mayor, would you consider putting men on the ground to ensure that they do not return again?
Precisely, that's what we're going to do. And it's too premature for me to say it here. But tomorrow we're giving a press release to all the 9, mining officers working at the Minerals Commission. They are all proceeding on a leave immediately.
In the Nzima East Municipality of the Western Region, the minister questioned Chief Executive Officer of the Minerals Commission, Dr. Tony Orban, over a prospecting license given to Okoben Mining, a small-scale mining company. Okoben Mining were operating, despite the directive, to halt all small-scale mining activities across the country. They were seen mining for gold at Jura Dominase, few meters away from the Ankobra River.
I've been here for more than 5 months, and prospecting list is given for 2 months, and you can't.
No. It wouldn't be. If
you mentioned 2 months.
Maybe because.
Can we get the man? Please call the man.
Over here, he may not have the date accurately.
Please let us settle the issue here. Let's get the man here on the side.
No.
But there will be some supervisors should be here. Okay. Somebody should be.
But I think I know that it was signed by the former minister.
Let us find out. And when they start. How are you? When did you start working here?
Within 6 months.
6 months. Are you sure? 6 months?
3 months.
3 months. You started. Where's Tony, please? The gentleman said they started work here 3 months. 3 months ago, I was a minister. I'm still a minister.
Honorable, there's a difference between when he got the license and when, with your due respect, and when he started working. I think we can verify that through the documentation. I don't think we have a problem. We will verify that through documentation. Again, Minerals Commission doesn't give license. If the license would have been given by Minerals Commission, then it would be a catastrophe. This would have been signed by a minister. It may not be yourself, but definitely a minister would have signed that before it became a prospecting license or any other license. We don't issue licenses. And
but if they will start working for 3 months ago, they would have need an authorization to come to the site. Some authorization will be given.
But those
some entry to the site will be given. Who would have granted that entry?
That one will not come to you.
Yeah.
That one will not come to you. Once the licenses have been granted by you or by the minister. Who
would have granted that?
Who would have granted what? The authorization?
Yes, to visit sites.
To visit would have been part of the license arrangement. it would have been part of the license arrangement. I think that the key issue here is who granted the license. The license was granted by the minister. It would have come through the Minerals Commission by all means, but eventually it would have been granted by the minister. The minister would also have the right to say, I'm not satisfied with the process, don't grant or go back again and do that.
All right.
We can cross-check that.
It is clear that this man is giving a prospecting list.
Yes.
And he's doing digging or more or less exploring or, excavating for gold. We need to invite him to the office and stop him immediately.
We need to find out. I have seen
you don't need to find out. We have seen it ourselves. Let's stop him. Draft the letter. Let's stop him immediately.
An illegal miner was caught red-handed in the Western region following the expiration of an ultimatum to illegal mine operators to vacate their sites. The middle-aged man, Nane Japan, was caught mining in a water body at Hiawa in the Western region.
Where put up the phone? We are not against you,